order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for November 4th, 2020. Roll call. Mr. Budke.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Kuhn.
Here.
Mr. Lunsky.
Here.
Mr. Matichak.
Here.
Mr. Reichert.
Here.
Miss Sandy.
Here.
And I am Mr. Wasvik. Quorum present. Reading and approval of the minutes for the October 4th, 2020 meeting. Any additions, corrections, deletions, anything like that?
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Lunsky. Was that?
This is Andrew.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Budke.
I had one item on number 3.2, which was the conditional use permit for the dog daycare. I think this comes across when you read through it, but we approved that with allowing for the larger outdoor area, basically as it was petitioned. I'm not sure if we need to add that clarification, but that'd be my one suggestion.
Anybody have any questions, comments on that? Are you willing to add that into your motion, Mr. Reichert?
I am.
Mr. Lunsky, okay with the second?
Yep.
Does that satisfy Mr. Budke?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, minutes are approved as noted and read. Item 3.1.
The plat of Northern Plains Potato Addition and an ordinance dedicating right-of-way located northeast quarter of Section 5, Township 150 North, Range 50 West, Wally Township, Grand Forks County. This one's going to be Stephanie's.
Ms. Helford, please enlighten us.
I had it up. Hold on, give me a second. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening. So you saw this last month. This is just I'll just give a quick review or refresher. So really they're looking to sell this farmstead. That's why we're having the replat. And I just want to clarify, last month I did get asked a question if this was in city limits. It's actually not, but it's in our ET, so that's why we're looking at it. So I just wanted to clarify that it's not in city limits, but it's in our ET. Also, we added another tech change. We're asking to include 10-foot utility easements along the north, west, and south side of the property. And staff is recommending approval. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Yeah, Mr. Matichak.
How many acres is in there?
I can scroll down. That was included in your staff report. So the farmstead lot is just over 15 acres.
Did you say over 15?
Yes.
Okay, so that could be subdeveloped later, right? No?
No, right now it's staying A1. So right now all it can be is the farmstead separated out.
It couldn't be broke down to 2.5 acre lots later?
No, the rules are.
No.
Okay, so they would have to add some of the farmland then to do the cluster or whatever they wanted to do. Okay, just wanted to check. I didn't know if it qualified from, the old farmstead rule that's in there is that if it was pre-74, which is probably was, it could be a non-conforming lot.
Right now it's getting replatted, so it's gonna follow.
With 15 acres. With 15 acres is a conforming lot. So, okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Frank. Could you bring up the list of, I just don't want to miss anybody in case we want further discussion, the list of commissioners, please. So with that, I guess not hearing anything, can we open the public hearing? Anybody in the audience would like to step up and address item 3.1, please do so at this time. Not seeing anyone, brings it back to the commission.
Move approval.
Was that Mr. Reichert?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Reichert moved, Mr. Kuhn second. Any further discussion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right, 3-1 passes unanimously. Item 3-2.
So, let's see. Sorry, I forgot we're reading it into the record. So 3-2, conditional use permit to build contractor shops at 2950 Heartland Drive. Real quick before I get started into the item, for those commissioners at home on Zoom, if you could switch back and forth between your gallery view and your speaker view, it'll blow the map up for you so you can see it at home a little bit better. And that's just in the top right-hand corner. And those here, thanks for bearing with us with the technology hybrid thing. We're kind of figuring it out as we go, but so thanks for your patience with that. But getting into the actual item, we're looking at the property. 2950 Heartland Drive is located right here off of Interstate 29 and 32nd Avenue South, just south of the Heartland West complex, that commercial complex there. The property is zoned PUD commercial with B3 uses allowed. With that B3 designation and commercial designation, contractors' offices are allowed, but the contractor shop aspect comes in under a conditional use permit to evaluate the site and surrounding conditions to see if it fits within the context of the area. We've done those a couple different ways in the past. Some commissioners will remember either through a conditional use permit like this process or through a rezoning of a PUD amendment to include it as allowable use. So with that, that's kind of why we're going through the process. Tonight, we've copied the conditional use permit that's drafted in your staff reports after other similar permits we've done in the past, with the inclusion that exterior storage of products and materials can't be on site in the outside area. It all has to be contained in the shop, as well as addressing the noise, vibrations, fumes, some things that may come up with operating a contractor shops. That's written in the permit and pretty standard in all of our permits, as well as a caveat on how to enforce that should we need to do so. I've had talked to 2 different neighboring properties owners on their request though, and with that the concern was the outdoor aesthetics, that the fear that there might be, it's a larger lot, there may be a possibility for exterior storage to kind of creep and some of the aesthetics things. So with that, we've added, in addition to the prohibiting exterior storage of products and materials, prohibiting heavy machinery or equipment from the exterior storage as well. And the owner feels he can abide by that pretty easily. So with that, the neighbors, like I said, have heard two concerned neighbors with the aesthetics. One has indicated a question about building materials and things like that. This is not in the corridor overlay, and so there's no zoning building material requirements placed on the lot. So with that, the general overview, I will point out too that a few years ago, we did rezone Heartland West just directly north of this property, and within that complex, that was a special circumstance given that it's a private development with a private road, differences in parking and some setbacks and some other elements. So that was a comprehensive PUD. But within that PUD, we did allow contractor shops and offices in allowable use. So from staff's perspective, to have a similar use just directly to the south makes sense and kind of fits within the area. So with that, that's a general overview. I do believe the owner, as well as probably some neighbors, are here to speak to the public hearing. But prior to that, or however, Mr. Boswick, you want to handle it, I could certainly answer any questions.
Gotcha. Mr. Matichak.
Yeah, I think you answered my question, but I want to make sure. I've always wondered, all those buildings that are built on the Ag Country property that's out there, they conform with the corridor overlay with the 2 types of tin? Because I know we had people on the other side of the interstate that we made a big deal out of corridor overlay, and I just want to make sure we're being equal here.
We are. So corridor overlay follows Interstate 29 as well as 32nd Avenue South. And so those properties fronting either of those roadways would need to conform to the building material standards. The private complex to the north wanted uniformity throughout theirs, so what was required on the ones fronting I-29, they also required throughout their complex. But that, from a zoning standpoint, was not what we required. We just required those fronting the roadways meet the corridor overlay standards. Did that answer your question?
Basically, but the two types of steel with the difference in the middle qualifies for corridor overlay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right, because they're all the same out there.
Yes, on that particular property.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's what, 10, 12 buildings?
There might be a few out more than that out there now, but yes.
Besides the Ag Country building that's, yeah. Okay.
Right. Ag Country would be located on the south here. There's some vacant lots that they're up for sale for development, and then the smaller complexes.
Because I know there's going to want to be development on the east side of the interstate, and I just want to make sure we're fair with this.
Well,
Gotcha.
and it's a separate property than that development, standalone. Mr. Reichert had his hand up. Mr. Reichert, please.
Thanks. I guess I understand what the difference between a contractor shop and a contractor office is, but to me, what's preventing somebody from, I guess, what is the substantive difference? Because it seems to me like somebody could call it a office and then just, use it as a shop. I'm a little confused here.
The shop element comes in with the warehousing, manufacturing, not manufacturing, but what use am I looking for?
It's more of an industrial use, right?
Yeah, it's more of the operational side of their business, right? So it's not the standard admin stuff that they're doing, the paperwork processing. It's the more intense operation side. And typically with the contractor shops, they're coming in the morning, they're loading up, they're doing their thing, and they're heading out. And so it's that storage of materials that they need for their on-site stuff that they go out and do. And so it's a little bit more intense that way than your standard office building or your standard retail that we see in the general commercial district. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, as much as it can. I just don't see a lot of I see there being a real overlap between the two uses.
100%.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Thank you.
I should say we rarely see one without the other, so.
Okay, any further questions? I got to open the public hearing here. I guess we can come back to it. So I will open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience who'd like to step up and address item 3.2, please do so at this time. So if anybody wants to come up and address us, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Vian. My home address is 1204 South 23rd Street. I have one of the properties out here in Heartland Business Court, 2800. I am right, kind of the first one as you come in to the right. Grant Pernica is with me tonight as well. He's across, and he's the property directly to the north of where this is being planned. First of all, I want to say that I'm not against small business starting up and or building spaces and expanding, and it's what I like to see. I've started out as a small business myself and have grown over time, but I don't want this to be looked at all as against Total Care Plumbing. I've been out there for a couple years now. It's I don't know if you've seen the complex, but it's now about half full. There's probably only about 3 or 4 businesses. The rest of them are all hobby type facility use, and which is what I use it for as well. It really is we've created really a community in itself, and that's just what the intent is in having something like this where people work together, talk together, kind of have the same same thoughts about the area. There's about 29 lots out there. To date, they're about half full. Like I say, there's about 3 Three of those are businesses. I've been in contact with 4 or 5 other owners, including Bruce Kwame, who is the developer, and he owns the other 15. So we probably have a concern from about 20 of the total 29 units that are out there as far as what this building is. And as we've looked at it, and tried to look at what are our concerns, it is so different from ours in that we've got covenants that are about 30 pages long that cover everything that we can do out there. In this space, there isn't any. And I appreciate the planning department have been very good in talking and getting information back and forth and explaining things as well. But it's there's a lot of specifics on this, and this for us is totally an unknown. We have no idea what this is going to look like, the impact. When I built out there, and I knew that there was office zoned in front of it, and I see the ag building, and you see the quality of construction, and I expect that similar to a Black Gold Farms building, office building, or True North, that I would see those kind of buildings that would be coming in, and that's what it's zoned for. And there's probably in the neighborhood of $10 to $12 million worth of building to the north of this that basically drives in and out. And we really feel at this point that there's nothing, we have no idea what this is even going to look like. And the permit, as was stated, we really like point 1. Point 2 said prohibiting exterior storage of heavy machinery. I guess I've got a concern with really any machinery out there because none of our complex has that kind of a ability to have machinery. I don't know how you define heavy machinery versus light machinery. If this was cars, pickups, and vans, that would be something. But if this was an office building, you wouldn't see light equipment even being parked there. And again, really no architectural requirements as far as what this is going to look like. I did visit with Nicholas Schuler about this and asked him very specifically about the building, and the comments I got back were less than favorable in our opinion. He stated that this was a business area, it's not like building a house. He said that the appearance was up to him. Asked about a wainscot, and he said that he would decide. So we're entering into something where we don't know what's happening as this gets changed and as this impacts our property. And if this is sold down the road, somebody else comes in and they can do these same type of things. So that's those are my concerns. I wish that he was building out in the industrial sites, which is just half a mile away, and not have to deal with this. That's my thoughts. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I probably have just a couple. Does anybody from the commission have any questions for Mr. Bean?
Oh, no.
No? Megan, no?
No, I just have a general question, so go ahead.
Okay. I don't see any. I guess we can call you back up if something arises. Thanks for coming up.
Sure.
I guess one question for Ms. Edwardson, just from me, and I'll start it off. Is there any covenants or anything on this property, or is it just a standalone?
To my knowledge, Ag Country, who's selling the property, doesn't have any covenants on that. That aside is not for the city to enforce.
Right.
The perspective would be what's limited to the conditional use permit.
I didn't know if there was, so I just figured.
To my knowledge, no.
Ms. Sandy, do you have a question in general?
Yeah, Andrea, could you show us a map of this area again and sort of in relation to where Mr. Bean and Mr. Paranika's properties are?
Sure. Greta, could you switch to the Zoom can have the map on the screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, you might have to switch your gallery view in the top right-hand corner of your Zoom screen, so it'll blow up. You can also right-click and like showcase it if that helps. So we're looking at 32nd Avenue South, I-29. The property in question is the 2950 right here. The Heartland West complex just being directly to the north of that. Mr. Veen's shop is located just off the southern eastmost corner of the complex. And then there's another neighbor here just directly to the north of this shop.
And initially, this is all owned by the same person, is that right?
Correct. My understanding is Ag Country sold the northern lot to the developer who did the northern Heartland West commercial condo thing.
Okay. Thanks.
So is that property, that Heartland property, then like an association where you do
Yes.
and whatnot, and you all have to do the same thing and
So-
provide?
Yep, the 29 lots that Mr. Veen was referring to are part of a self-policed condo association, commercial condo association. We do have a specific PUD zoning on that parcel, just for how the shops are developed out there. But in terms of general enforcement and some of those things that fall outside of the zoning boundary and the city boundary, they do have a commercial condo association to govern them.
Does that condo association, does it just define the boundary of that association in that document?
100%, it is just those northern lots. This lot just directly to the south is completely separate in ownership and from
And
that.
when they developed that area, were all these other lots subdivided already?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Mr. Reichert?
Thank you, Andrea. Can you just help me think about this a little bit in the right way? So obviously, we run into this problem. People want their condo association rules to continue on. I mean, it would be nice if we could, if they could influence what happens beyond, but clearly they can't. I mean, you get to only influence where your condo association is. But at the same time, they had an expectation coming into this that, they knew what the zoning was. They expected that the zoning of their neighbors would stay the same. And I know, at least personally, I take a lot of, we hold people to the fact that knowing what the zoning is around them. And when they come in and complain that, well, I didn't think, a big apartment complex or something was going to go there, we tell them, look, you should have known what the zoning was. Well, in this case, it sounds like they did know what the zoning was. And they're looking at, wanting to keep the zoning the same. So how should we balance those two, or how did your office balance those two in deciding to recommend approval of this?
From the staff's perspective, the zoning hasn't changed that drastically. Prior to the Heartland West Northern Complex being rezoned, it was zoned the same PUD commercial that this current lot is today. And so when we did that zoning, we actually included probably even more light industrial options into it. They haven't actually had that materialize in all reality. Like Mr. Veen said, a lot of them are personal hobby shops, a couple of them are businesses. But in that PUD document, I can try to pull that up here. We do have the allowable uses in there that range from commercial professional offices, light manufacturing, contractors' offices and shops. And this is this northern complex that's been broken up under this condo association. So when this request from this potential owner came in from Total Care of, hey, I want to do a contractor shop just to the south, we looked at the uses that were allowed in this northern district and said it's a similar use being requested to this just to the south, seems to fit. And from that perspective, the zoning on the property is commercial, and so there's a variety of other uses that can come into play. Anything from gas stations to storage units to general retail to U-Haul rental trailers. And so the commercial aspect, it has a wide variety of uses. And we've looked at, it's a long-winded explanation, but in our eyes, it's similar. The two are so similar that it would be hard for us to say, yes, the northern can have it, but the southern one, it's a complete non-fit. Well, I can't say that. It's the same use that's being requested. And so that was from general staff's perspective. I will point out we have allowed contractor shops in a few other spots in town. The Copper Point one behind Salvation Army off of 32nd. We just did O'Reilly's up north on Gateway. Rosencrantz shop on North 6th Street. There's a few other ones. So all of those were in a B3 general district, just the same as this one. We evaluated the context, the permit aspects of containing it within the shop, containing the noise, the fumes, all that sort of thing. Fits within the general business in certain aspects. And so to answer your question, how does it fit? In our eyes, it's pretty similar.
Okay, Andrew, so, and this is back to the original question I asked, I think. If I were to build a contractor's office and it was a 500 square foot, one-story building with a 10,000 square foot garage attached to it, could I call that a contractor's office?
We would evaluate that. I mean, if we see a site plan with that come in, we obviously question that and say what is the use of the property. We do expect people to be honest with us, and if they say it's an office, we hold them to that, and quite frankly, that would show up in the building structural plans of it. You know,
Okay.
When the inspections is doing their interior review, we'd expect that to show up as an office then. And if it shows up as an open space, it's a shop. And so then we go through the process of making everything kosher. So, did that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay.
Miss Sandy?
Yeah, could you just explain, maybe I'm just not understanding this, but I remember when that northerly development came to us, and I guess the way I recall is that this is really what it was meant for, was contractor shops. And I think, just from looking at the county website, isn't there, it looks like, isn't BK Electric out there and Krogfuss?
Correct. I think that was the original developer's intent, and I think he definitely markets to that. But it just so happens that they have hobby shops.
But what's the difference if there are the contractor shops within the association versus one right before you cross that line into the association? I'm trying to figure out why the concern about putting this here, because to me, this is what the intent was. That's how I remember it.
The difference being is that we've already allowed this use as written into that northern PUD amendment. And this one here, we haven't allowed that specifically to this property. And so that's why we're recommending approval for your same reasons. It fits.
So the
Megan, I think one of the reasons that I'm gleaning from this is that it doesn't have the same covenants on the southern part. So they feel more comfortable with the contractor shops where they can control the exterior and what it looks like through their covenants, but they don't have that control over this southern piece, is what I'm sensing.
Sure, and I think I see that point too, but if you put it into, if you're in a residential area or a townhouse area that has covenants, it stops somewhere, and there may be a townhouse next door that fits perfectly into the neighborhood, but it doesn't mean that you can control what they build. And so I'm struggling with why we would deny this when it's exactly what that neighborhood was not only designed for, but there are very similar properties, and you can't always pick your neighbor's curb appeal.
So the Heartland Edition Association has the same conditional use permit on that as this?
No, theirs is a special PUD amendment we did. Because when we did that complex, we looked at the list of allowable uses, we looked at setbacks, impervious surface, parking. We looked at their entire development pattern for that and have special considerations that didn't follow any of our other zoning rules. And so we wrote almost like a mini zoning district for them specific to that complex. So farther down the way, we just have, for this lot, it's just PUD commercial, which follows B3. And so it's pretty simple and straightforward, and then falls back to the B3 setback standards, the B3 impervious parking requirements, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm just struggling here to understand it too.
Can't hear you.
So I'm just struggling to understand it myself because I've been out in that area and I've got a few customers and stuff. I've done work out in that area, that it's offices, garage doors. It's like a smaller version of this. So how can we get the two parties to be happy with each other? Maybe that's a line that isn't our job to do, but.
And I think part of the conditional use permit, not to discredit what the neighbors are concerned about, because it's a large lot, right? So, I mean, the exterior piece of it is definitely a part of that. And so staff feels we've addressed that through the conditional use permit by putting everything, finished materials, machinery, prohibiting that on site. Should his company grow further and he needs to do that, we could revisit the conditional use permit, require a fence or something to hide it from view. But right now at his scale, he's able to contain everything he feels. And so staff feels that the permit is written enough to address the aesthetic and yard concerns.
The applicant is here too, if you
Yes,
want
if
to
you
have
want to talk
questions.
to him.
What's that?
Andrea, did you say that there could be storage shops or a gas station or anything of that sort that would fit in?
Correct. It's zone B3, commercial B3, and so that falls under the wide range for general business. So pretty much anything you see on South Washington Street would be allowed in this area as well.
And so would you say that basically the same sort of exteriors that this proposed contractor shop would use could be used without having to come to P&Z?
As far as the exterior, can you say that again? I don't know that I quite got it.
Yeah, well, I guess basically I'm just wondering if it isn't this contractor shop, it could be something else that would basically look similar. I mean, it could be storage units.
Correct. We don't have building requirements from a zoning perspective. This would be
Okay.
off of the corridor overlay, so yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
I guess if,
We need a motion or-
go ahead, Megan.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the conditional use permit if we're to that point.
I just got to wrap up and close the public hearing.
Okay.
So if nobody in the audience, anybody else like to step up to the microphone? If not, I'll close the public hearing. And with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Feel free, Megan.
Oh, sure. So I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit and I'm always concerned that people like what's going in next, especially if you're next to something that hasn't been developed yet. But to me, it seems that this is even part of the association that they decided to purchase their property in, and so I have a hard time saying that they can do it there, but not next door on a little larger lot when that was sort of the intent.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Budke seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing no hands, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion 3-2 carries.
I will say that one will go to city council
Correct.
November 16th, I believe.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. This will go to city council for the final, so if you do have anything for there, please bring it up. Item 4-1, thanks for coming.
Ordinance to amend zoning map to Southbrook PUD Amendment Number 2 in Kearns 3rd Resub located 4600 block of South Washington Street. I'll pull it up real quick here for everybody. So the lot we're going to be looking at is corner of South Washington Street and 47th Avenue South. It's the highlighted piece here. Just to the north is Maple View and Memory Care, and probably Stone's Mobile is one of the little bit more prominent with the large piece there. So hopefully everybody sees that okay. So the zoning currently is for multifamily, which is Maple View is under that, as well as the condo units that are north of that. The unit here is right on the corner. They're requesting it to go to B3. It is currently within a PUD, so to be PUD B3 uses. We think that fits on the corner there. It'd be similar uses to what the developer had developed some units here, and they filled up very quick, so he thinks that'll also happen to the north here. So with that, we're recommending approval. We think it fits. The access units will remain. They're on the west side of this property, and they can also, not as easily, but off of South Washington, there's a frontage road over here that drops down. That's private as well, so they wouldn't be getting other access, and the developer is aware. This one it is preliminary, goes to final next month where we do the notification of the neighbors. I'll stand for any questions.
Could you bring up our commission? Thank you. It's easier when I can see hands raised. Any questions for Mr. Brooks or comments, statements? Mr. Matichek?
There'll be notification going out?
Next meeting, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 2-meeting deal.
So since this is preliminary approval, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Matichek, second by Ms. Sandy. Any further discussion? Seeing no hands, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, 4-1 passes. 4-2.
4-2 is the plat of Kingsview 8th resub and an ordinance dedicating right-of-way located at the 6,000 block of South 14th Street. As you see the staff report, this is actually, the developer is known as KHL Investments LLC. I was asked to make everybody aware that that is the mayor and his wife, Jennifer Boczynski. So it's Brandon and Jennifer Boczynski are the owners. So he did ask that I make everybody aware of that, and he did want to make sure that everybody is aware because he's not trying to hide that. So it's a little unusual. We don't have too many mayors that have been developers in the past, but in this case, he wants to make sure he's not getting special treatment from staff and planning commission. So with that being said, it's been a fairly easy review since it's kind of what we expected to see in this development. So I'll go down. In terms of the uses, it's actually what the neighborhood's been asking for in terms of additional single family. So hopefully that can be seen fairly well. 59th Avenue, these have already been platted down here on the south side. The access will come in off of South 14th Street. There's a long cul-de-sac, which we were aware when we had the discussion when this original plat went in that this was going to end up being a long cul-de-sac because that was the only way to get in there. And we have essentially lots that continue on here on the north side of 14th Street. So it's everything that we anticipated seeing from before when we were kind of left. This is the last piece of the residential in that area. Again, zoning's already in place, and we're recommending approval. Lot sizes are similar as well to the neighboring property, so everything seems to fit. I will point out too that there's this piece is still a commercial piece that's been in place since the beginning. So that one is not owned by this developer. It's owned by the original developer that's been in place in this area. So and stormwater's already been taken care of. So I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Brooks? Sorry guys, I can't see out in TV land, so speak up please. If anybody, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, this is Alex. I have a question, but it's for Mr. Grasser probably. That really seems like a long cul-de-sac. Do we have any concerns about snow removal there?
Mr. Grasser is not in the audience today, Mr. Reichert, so.
He is on Zoom.
Is he on Zoom?
There you go. Takes a while to get all the right buttons. You know, I don't know that the length of the cul-de-sac has a real big influence on the snow removal component. The bulb is the bulb, no matter how long the length is. So I don't think there's any unusual concerns about the length of the cul-de-sac. This one is long enough, it will require sidewalks. Some of the shorter ones are exempted from sidewalks, but I don't think there's anything really unusual about this particular, given the length.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Matichak?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with this, but I'm just concerned with the legality of him signing his own ordinance. Is there a problem there?
We'll look into that, and we'll check with the city attorney and find out.
I mean, I
make
just
sure.
clean it up. I understand what he's doing. He's upfront, everything's great. It's just that his signature will be on this.
Yeah, I'll verify with the city attorney.
Okay.
Thank you, yep.
I'm just doing that for his own good.
Yep, no, I get it.
Okay. Mr. Budke?
I had a question. I looked at the city's GIS website, and you mentioned, Ryan, that this was basically what the planning staff was expecting. It looked like the original zoning was R3, which I take would be a little different form than this. Is that does that still hold, or is that maybe outdated information?
No, it's still R3, but if you look at the density, I want to say it's a 5 unit an acre piece. So this was always intended to be single family area, which is actually when there was another developer that looked at this piece and trying to do some potential townhomes or lower density multifamily, I'd say. And there was a lot of concern that that is not what that neighborhood expected. So I understand the R3 may give the appearance that it wasn't expected, but in this case, I think every one of those single family folks, they told us that they were expecting single family in this area. So at that time, we'd had a lot of that discussion. It's probably prior to you being on. I'm not even sure if that made it up to meeting place here, but it did involve neighborhood meetings that there was lots of discussion on what would go in this place, and the neighborhood was rather resolute that this should be single family, I'll say that.
Mr. Bochinsky basically bought the entire property to be able to do just what he proposed to us tonight.
I think that fits.
That sums it up, doesn't it, on all the meetings we had on it? Yeah, before he was mayor.
Before he was mayor. Yeah.
All before he was mayor. Yeah, it was all long before he was mayor, and he decided to buy the entire property to make it single family, to make the whole neighborhood happy, so.
And this is the last piece of that. So he had platted that north row there, and then this is the last of it.
So,
Yeah, Mr. Budge?
if I may, Steve.
Yeah.
Ryan, does the city staff have an estimate for what developing this property will mean for the city's property tax revenues?
No, we do not. Again, as we said before, we do have a plan potentially to go to Smart Growth America to get some of those numbers, but we have not exercised that as of yet. We were close to exercising that in the spring when we have not pulled the trigger on that contract just due to budget concerns right now. So it's potential that that'll be budgeted early this next year.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just make a plug that I think that this, an analysis like of this, developments like this around the edge is critical. I get the sense repeatedly when I ask this question that the city does not have a good understanding of essentially what the cost benefit analysis of this is. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Miss Sandy, you had your hand?
Yeah, I just want to say that I was around, I think a lot of us were around when this came up and was going to be townhouses, and the neighborhood really pulled together, and this is what, they were quite vocal that this is what they wanted, and so I'm actually quite happy to see this finally come together and get going. And I do have to say that there aren't enough lots available in town right now. There are people who want to build houses. There aren't enough lots. And so the timing seems to be right. And I know that I probably say this about as often as Mr. Budke wants to not move south. As a realtor, I work with a lot of people who, that's what they want. So I think that what's very important here is that we offer a balance to our community so that you can have that option for the more dense living. And I think although Thompson Homes is south, they're offering that and they're successful with that, but not everyone's looking for the same thing in the same type of neighborhood and the same walkability and that type of thing. So I think that as a planning commission, we need to be sure that we'll be offering something a little bit more broad so that we're attractive to multiple different families and ways of living. And so with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reichert. Did you have your hand up for another reason, Mr. Reichert?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? I don't see any hands up. With that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, item 4.2 passes. Mr. Brooks?
The only other thing we have is under reports. So North Dakota Planning Commission training is coming up November 18th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. If interested, let us know. That will be a virtual training. And there is potential, if there's enough people wanting to watch that we could follow up with a virtual meeting as well to discuss what was discussed at the meeting. So, sometimes when you have these statewide trainings that you may have some more questions specifically related to how this boils down to us locally or something like that. So if you were interested in, one, in the training, it's available, and then two, if you are interested in doing a follow-up after this, we could either do that right after or a day after, a week after, whatever works for you. So I won't ask for an answer tonight, but if you could email us and let us know if you're interested.
Ryan, is that free or do we have to pay for each member?
No, that's free, but I believe there's a registration that we can send out to you tomorrow. It's a free event, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good question. All right, Mr. Matichek.
Yeah, before we adjourn, I just wanted to bring up, we talked about the Viterra grain company that was out north of Grand Forks, the trouble we had with the railroad tracks and stuff. Just for everybody's information, Viterra was a Canadian company. They've completely pulled out. They just left the grain storage facility there. They finally put it up for sale. It's in very bad condition. There's water in the terminal. It's a big problem. So I just wanted everybody on the commission to know about that. We don't have any problem with the rail cars now because there's no grain stored there. And I don't know it's a pretty big facility, and I don't know what's going to happen out there. It's just the kind of thing I just wanted the planning department to know about, that there might be some changes out there or whatever's going to happen. I don't know. Okay. At this time, there's no grain company that's even interested in it. So I don't know what's going to happen. Just wanted to bring that up. The other thing, there's some things on the north end. R&R Railroad is gone. There's a couple other businesses that are going out. So there's going to be a bunch of different properties that are probably going to be coming in for different reasons or whatever. And then the second quick thing, what's going to go into the old Pier 1 building?
A dentist, and I believe, yeah, there's some other, okay. There's some room for some other medical office, I believe. Is it okay? For sure, a dental office.
I thought Ryan Brooks Steakhouse would have been great there.
It probably would have been, but I don't know.
So with that, I'll move to adjourn.
I would have ate all my profits.
Unless somebody else got something, I'll move to adjourn.
Nope. Mr. Budke, did you second that?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I saw
No, that's fine.
TV's a little sketchy here tonight, but with that, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great month.
Power down, right?